What if the very tool that you think is only for death is actually the key to funding your dream life while you're alive? Why do you think wealthy families use life insurance to build tax-free wealth while the rest of y'all are using it just to cover burial costs? If I'm able to show you today how to access tens of thousands of dollars without a bank, without a credit check, and without penalty, wouldn't you want to know how to do that? Well, I'm glad you asked, because today we're going to get into it with a very special guest. She is one of the mavens in the industry. She is a queen, Miss Latoya Jackson. We've had her here before on the show many times. I think 2 or 3 times we've done it. But today we're going to answer those very questions, because we really need to leverage and use all the financial tools that are available to us to make our life, not only to make our lives easier, but to make our lives better. So let me bring Latoya up, because we're not going to have a whole lot of pomp and circumstance, but we're going to talk about those 3 questions that I open with, because I know that so many people look at that very tool and the only thing they think about is someone has to die, or it's only to bury someone, or why would I depend on receiving money when someone passes away to change my life? And, you know, they're powerful questions, but we're missing the mark in the strategy of leveraging our wealth, right? So I'm gonna let you bring your voice into the room any way you feel comfortable or want to do, Latoya, and then we're gonna get into this conversation.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for having me again. It's always just a pleasure to be in a room in a space with you. So thank you so much to allow me to be on your platform. So for those that don't remember me, my name's Latoya Jackson. I do reside here in Atlanta, Georgia. And the name of my business is LN Financial Resources. And we are just doing amazing things to help bridge that disparity gap in the communities. And so I'm super excited to be here alongside you, Saran, to help continue in that journey.
Listen, I'm excited to have you because, we've been friends for gosh, it's been like 3 years now.
Uh-huh.
Right. And we're in the same industry, and we do a lot of things, and we're in a lot of rooms. We've done several events together as
A
well.
lot of rooms. Yeah, we
And
stay busy.
Hold on, I gotta make sure I'm live on Facebook.
We got to make sure.
Because
That's
it's
important.
weird. You have to do all these steps to make sure it's there. But I wanted to bring you back, and I was glad you booked, because I'm moving around, I'm helping clients, you're helping clients, and we're in the trenches, but it's so important to have these conversations. And so I want to ask this basic question. We're going to talk through this one because we talk about this all the time when we do presentations, but some people are like, how am I going to do that? I got term because somebody told me to buy term and invest the difference. So what's the difference between term and permanent insurance?
Big difference between term and permanent insurance. So first and foremost, I love them all. I have them all, and they all each have their own place. So I don't, say one's bad or one's good. They all have a purpose. Now, with term, it's going to be more like, think about it when you are looking for a place to live, right? When you think about term, that's going to be more so renting, right? Basically, you can get a lot of coverage for a fraction of the cost, like a little bit of the cost, and you pay for a term period. And at a certain point, that term comes to an end, just like on, that rent. Eventually, that lease comes to an end. And then that's it. You find somewhere else to go, or something else to do, or something else to get into. With a permanent insurance, that one is going to be supposedly, hopefully, last through your entire lifetime. So you never have to worry about it ending. You never have to worry about, oh my gosh, after so many years, it's over. Also, within it, if as long as it's properly structured, it's going to build that cash value for you as well. So it's going to have a few jobs moving around in that one. Yeah, and it's like buying a house, right? I bought the house, I got the equity, and now, I bought the house, I have my property, right? That's my asset. And now I'm going to allow that equity to build up inside of my house, right? So now I can leverage and use that equity or that cash value inside the property. So, or inside of the policy, right? So it's just think of it like, houses. I think that's the easiest way to put it for people to get the difference.
And I think it's important to have that distinction because so many people think, oh, well, I have my insurance at work. And I always tell them, I said, well, you have a group term policy.
Mm-hmm.
And that means when you go, it goes.
Goes,
and you
it does
can't
not
use
do it.
and you can't use it to do any of the leverage that we're talking about doing with a permanent policy. And
Mm-mm.
so I wanted to ask that question to kind of go to the basics because before we get into leveraging it to use it to do all the things that we talk about being able to do with a cash value life insurance policy, people don't understand the basics of it. And so that's why I wanted to kind of ask that question to move to so that we can get the basis done, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so now that everyone understands, hopefully, we're going to assume you understood. Because it was a great example. You're renting a house, you're buying a house. You still got to live where? In the house.
In the house.
So you get the term insurance, you get the permanent insurance. You still need to have the life insurance, right?
Mhm.
And I love that you say it depends on where you are in your life. And like you, I have all different versions. I
Yeah.
probably have more insurance than I want to admit.
I probably do as well.
Right. But we're leveraging it while we live. So it's like the whole
Absolutely.
purpose of this is creating the lifestyle that we want to live without the constraints of the bank. And that was one of the questions I asked is like, if we show you how to access it and you don't have to do a credit check, how many people worried
Mm.
about their credit
Look.
and you want to do something? You want to buy a car, you want to put a down payment on a house, you want to start a business, you want the kids to go to college, but you got to do a credit check. And for whatever reason, and we're not judging here, you don't have the best credit, right? This is no judgment zone. Judgment zone. We
Right.
listen and we don't judge, right?
Right.
Um, or you don't want to have a penalty. So you don't want to take the money out of your 401k or your TSP or whatever you put your money in, because guess what? You may not get a technical penalty if you take a loan, but you lose all the future interest, right? So we're going to talk to you about how to do that. So I want to just, ask you this question because I know you know a lot of people doing it, right? Just like I know a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
people doing it. And so what's one of the ways that you've seen people that you've placed into the properly structured cash value policies? How have they leveraged it in their lives?
That's such a great question. Most recently, a lot of my clients have been using it for investment opportunities lately. So they have funds that are kind of just sitting in the bank, and they're investors, right? They're
Yep.
entrepreneurs. So this is kind of what they do, and they're flipping properties and doing all types of things. Where now, instead of liquidating that bank account to go out and do the work and make the money, now they're moving that money over to a policy so that that money can continue working for them. So what we always want to do, we always want to make sure that we leverage, not liquidate, because you can't liquidate your way to wealth, right? But you can leverage.
Mm.
So we
Mhm.
want to transfer those funds over. So now let's just say if they've been doing properties and now they got like $80,000 or whatever, they can move that $80,000 over. So now the next investment opportunity that comes around, they don't have to liquidate that down. That money's still earning interest tax free, 80,000, 81, 82, while they're still able to utilize it to go out and do the work in those investments and make profits. And then they just recycle that system and they're able to do a larger investment every cycle and a bigger investment. And the bigger the investment, the bigger the return. So it's just
Yeah.
this amazing cycle to wealth. So I've been working with a lot of clients leveraging for real estate lately. It's great, and I use it as well for that purpose.
And I love that. And so I wanna take it a little bit deeper, right? Because I feel like sometimes we talk about it all the time, right? So sometimes we talk about it in terms of, oh, you just do this, like you just walk down the block, right? And so talk to me. Let's talk a little bit in depth about, how we're putting the money into the policy, and then the process of leveraging it, right? It's like, so it's like, well, how do I leverage it? Like, what do you mean? Like, how do I get it out? And and I think one of the big things too is, because I had to challenge myself this week with something that I was doing, and I was like, no, you need to put this in your policy first.
Make it work for you.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Hold on, let me call. How much space do I have?
Exactly. And that is it.
How much space do I have to put in here? And so I want to just, like kindergarten level. So if we will, it's like, what do you mean put it in the policy and then take it out to go do the investment? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. And actually, it is simple. It really isn't, deep. It's just people don't utilize it and understand it, but it truly is simple. So anytime, you have money, and I'll tell you me, anytime I have money that is coming in, I don't even save dollars in a traditional savings account at a bank. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that? Right? My savings is already moving over into my policies, right? And so now the only thing that's happening in my actual bank accounts is checking, like expenses, like payroll, money that's constantly moving to take care of things. So how do we use our savings accounts? We use it for emergency purposes. We use it for major capital purchases. Mm-hmm. I need a new refrigerator, whatever it is. We use it for investment opportunities. So when I think, it's very simple, I treat it just like a savings account. We're going to use it the exact same way. So when, an opportunity presents itself, the thing about opportunities is they're always going to be around. Opportunities are everywhere. Opportunities are all around us. The issue comes in is, are you ready for it? Are you ready
to recognize them?
Can you recognize it? Are you ready to take advantage of the opportunity when it presents? When that door gets to knocking, can you open it, right? So many people just are not in the position, but not because they can't be, just because they just haven't properly structured or positioned themselves to be. And all this is just a redirection, right? So I'm redirecting that savings. So when these opportunities present, and there's a distressed property that's a great deal that I can come in and do a 70-cent deal on or whatnot, and I know how to run my comps, or I'm in one of my networking groups and a project comes along. When these things happen, I don't have to go and liquidate, a savings account or wherever that money, or especially, I've seen people do retirement accounts, to your point earlier, liquidating, 401ks and IRAs and your future retirements and things of that sort to go out and try to take advantage of opportunities. You can just redirect the funds that you already have coming in and make them work more efficiently. So now I can come and leverage from that. So if I need to pull something out, I pull it, I redirect it into the policy. Now I'm able to go pull money out of that policy for whatever the said opportunity is. Sometimes it can even be private money lending. Somebody, they got a good deal and they need a lender. Hey, I can be the bank. I can give you that loan, right? Give you that money. Now my money is still earning interest in the policy. Now how I'm accessing it, super simple, depending upon which vehicle it's in. I have one vehicle, I can just, both of them, you can pick up the phone, but one of them, I just pick up the phone and make a call and it's done. It's in my account within a day or two. I have another policy where I have an app on my phone and I can click it's as simple as clicking.
I got the app too.
On my app and tell it how much I want to move over. In 24 to 48 hours, the money's in my bank account. Like, it's so super. Nobody's asking me for my credit report. Nobody's asking me, what do I want to use the money for? Nobody's asking me. It's my money. I can do what I want.
Nobody's asking you when you're going to pay it back and how you're going to pay it back.
They don't care if it comes back or not, right? So it's just, I'm able to just go in, get that quick access to leverage to go throw it into whatever the opportunity is, right? So once that opportunity does what it needs to do, maybe it's in the same year, maybe it's 2 years from now, but whenever it does what it needs to do, then I'm going to take what I took out, I'm going to put it back into my policy. Right. But then I've made money the entire time because my money was continuing to grow like I never touched it. earning interest tax-free. So I made money in my policy, but then I also made money from the investment. So I made money twice and I never had to liquidate to do it, right? So many people are fighting to get back to that line of zero, and they miss their opportunity for wealth, right? So leverage is super easy and super important to implement.
And, I love that. It's not a choice between having your money grow continuously to get the real compound effect, or liquidate it and go take advantage of another opportunity. It's both.
It's both.
It's both.
It doesn't have to be either or. It can always be a both and.
Yeah. And I actually had that question about 3 weeks ago when I did my Get Out of Debt boot camp. And one lady said, well, if we're trying to get out of debt, why are you talking to us about building savings? Because I did a savings challenge because I wanted them to mentally get in the mindset of you're going to be saving and you're going to be getting out of debt. And until we can get them kind of in their own roadmap. And she's like, don't you have to pick one? And I was like, no, you can do both. And I think that has been really the messaging that we've gotten from the mainstream is that either you pay off all your debt and get back down to zero, or you empty out your accounts to go try to make money and still end up at zero. And you got nothing to leverage, right? No future, anything, no potential, nothing. And that's why I really thought it was a good idea today to how do you leverage this for your lifestyle? Yeah. And I've shared this before, but one of the things was I had no idea how the life insurance worked as far as the cash value. But I found out at the most opportune time. And that was, I had bought a policy. It was June 2004, right? A long time ago. It was a few months after I had just bought my house. And my cousin stopped by and said, you got to get a life insurance policy because you own a property now. And I was like, what does that have to do with owning a house? But she said, no, in case something happens, the house would be paid off for the kids, et cetera, et cetera. And it made sense when she said it because, I understood what not having life insurance meant because when my mom passed, we didn't have it. So I got the policy, didn't think about it, just pay, just kept paying it, right? Didn't think about it until in 2013-14, I had been unemployed and I didn't have any money. And the policy payment came out. And it was right when I was about to start a new job. And it was the little money you need to start a new job, the gas, parking, lunch, whatever. Yeah. They had taken it. So I called to cancel the policy because I didn't know anything. I was like, I need to cancel this policy. And I had an attitude. When I tell you I had an attitude,
you was mad because they took that money.
I sent back my money. I need my policy. It was like $100 or whatever it was. I need you to send my money back. I'm canceling this policy. I don't have a job. I need this money. I started a new job in 2 days and I need to be there. And the lady was like, well, you have money in your account. I said, what? She said, you have cash value. I said, what's that?
What is it?
What's that? Because I just was buying a policy in case I died, right? Yeah. I lived under that myth too. And she said, well, you have $5,000 or whatever the number was. It was some really good number at the time. You have $5,000 in cash value. And I said, what does that mean, ma'am? I need my $100 back.
You worried about the
No, this is a real story. And she says, can I send it to this account ending in 1234? She said, you have an account ending 1234. I said, yeah. She said, would you like to take a loan from your policy? I said, what loan? And she's like, well, ma'am, you have $5,000 that you can borrow. I said, well, I don't have a job to pay it back. I don't know when I'm going to pay it back. She said, don't worry about that. Do you want the loan or not? Okay, obviously, she was using professional speak. This is me telling her, right? And she said, I said, $5,000? She said, yeah. I said, well, when am I going to get it? She's like, back then it was a little more than 2 to 3 days or whatever it was. It was like 3 or 4 days, whatever it was. And she said, I'll just send it to your account. And I still was like, so who do I pay back? But at any rate,
what is going on?
That was when I got the money. I said, and I looked the next month. I did. It wasn't a bill for it. They didn't ask me for it. They didn't send me a little incremental debit sheet to say we need to add this to your bill or anything. And so I took the $5,000 that I wasn't expecting, that I forgot I had set up, just being a good steward when I bought a house. And that $5,000 was able to not only carry me to my first paycheck, it obviously was a nice sum of money to take care of things for 2 or 3 months at a time when I didn't expect to be in between cash flow, right? And had I really understood what I had, because back then when they started them, because it's almost 30 years ago, 25, 21 years ago, looking at the date, it didn't accumulate. The money didn't accumulate as fast. So when I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I looked at the statements for the first year or two, and I was like, this is nothing. I just stopped looking at the statements because I knew I was going to pay it, because I was thinking about the potential.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
what most of us do.
yes, I haven't looked at a statement in 10 years because I just got them. This is the statement. Ain't nothing. I just tossed it aside. And so I share that story because the way that the insurance companies have made available the cash value, the way that the money can grow in the indices, and the way that you can access it, within 13 months or so. Some places within a month, just depending on what you're eligible for.
Yeah.
And it creates a stream that allows you to really just breathe.
Absolutely.
You talked about your emergency fund. If you have your emergency fund in a properly structured cash value policy, your emergency fund can always be earning interest, no matter what. And so, at any rate, I always feel like I need to share that story when I'm talking.
I love it. It's so real.
Insurance, because when I tell you, I was like dumbfounded when she told me about this, because at this point I had been unemployed for like 2 years, like off and on, starting stuff. It didn't work out, going back. And so now I've depleted my retirement, my annuity, all the things that I had set up, zeroed out just to, kind of get through the rough patch. And I was like, I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't know about it till now, because this is the last thing that you need. But so anyway,
I love that story.
Why do you think I'm gonna put it back to you, because you're my guest and I want you to talk.
No, that was real. I love that.
Why do you think that wealthy families prioritize life insurance in their wealth building?
Well, because they understand money. And the key to wealth is knowledge, right? So we only rise to the level of our knowledge, right? So financial literacy is so important. And they understand that. They're constantly educating themselves, and they ensure that they don't only educate themselves, they educate their families. This is kitchen table talk in certain communities that don't look like other communities, right? In my household, you did not talk about money. I didn't know what was going on in the household, right? And with them, they understand, in order for that wealth to move through generations, they have to understand wealth. You got to understand money. You got to have financial literacy. So that's important for them to educate their children, making sure that the family is educated on it, because that's the only way that it's going to work and it's going to move. And so they understand that knowledge is power. You got to open up a book. You got to get in mentorship programs. You got to get in networking communities, because it's not something that's going to be taught in schools, because it's not something that they really care for you to know, right? So because they understand that, they teach it internally, right? So that's why it's so important for us to share that information, because it's not easily obtainable outside of certain wealthy circles, but they understand the importance of that knowledge. And it's one of the most powerful things you can do is educate yourselves. And one of the most expensive things to own is a closed mind. So you want to open that mind. You want to get that knowledge. You always want to be expanding and growing. And they're doing something completely different than what most people are doing, right?
Yeah.
Because they had that open mind. Open that mind. Do not have a closed mind. Get the knowledge, get the information, and that's how you grow and you can build that wealth. And they understand how important that knowledge is.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. The most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind.
It is.
That'll preach, as the pastor used to say.
You're only going to grow to the level of your knowledge. So if you got, hey, you close it off, that's where you're going to stop every time.
Yeah. And I love that because I heard I listened to a lot of YouTube videos during the day when I'm working. And I think it was Alex Hamercy I was listening to today, and he talked about, hey, if you make $50,000 a year and you're not and you want to be a millionaire and you're not pursuing anything outside of your day-to-day work, you really don't make $50,000 a year. You're losing $950,000 a year
Yep.
because you settled for the $50,000 a year because you're not willing to do what it takes to chase the 950,000.
That part. Yep.
And when he said that, I said, "Wow, that's so sobering." Because if you scale that to someone maybe earning six figures, it's still costing you $900,000
Absolutely, it
to
is.
not make $1 million in 1 year,
Absolutely.
or it's
Yeah.
still costing you $750,000 a year to not make $1 million a year.
You're still paying it. And I like to call it the ignorance tax, because it's like, taxes is one of the most expensive things people have to pay out of their pocket every year. And so I'm like, you're paying that ignorance tax because the money that you're not, to your point, all that money that you're not making because you're choosing to be comfortable, or you're choosing to not do the things, right? You're still paying that money out. So even if you're making $100,000 a year, you're still paying out of your pocket, like you said, 700,000, 800,000, period. Right. So at what point do you stop paying the ignorance tax and take your money?
I gotta type that in the chat. Stop paying the ignorance.
It's a real thing. Paying it every day. Taxes. Are we not sick of paying taxes yet?
Listen, I'm sick of paying Uncle Sam because he's the uncle I didn't ever want to be related to.
For.
But I understand that my Uncle Sam, or our Uncle Sam, is a very demanding uncle, and so I follow the rules. Right? I do follow the rules, and I follow all the rules. Right. And so that leads me to the next question. I follow the rules to find ways to use the rules he gave me to not pay taxes.
Hey.
Right? And so that's the piece I want to lean into now, how using the cash value in a policy is tax free. We'll say 99% of the time, because we don't want nobody taking a score. Say we said 100%. How having access to cash value in a properly structured, and we keep saying properly structured for this reason. It's important to say it that way because it's like shoes, right? You can go to Payless doesn't exist anymore, but you can go to Payless and get a pair of shoes, a pair of black pumps. This would be a lady's example. I think they are. You know what? I think they are. I know the one we were using here for community service doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
Because we used to do shoes for families in my community, and that was one of the places that we used to go. So the one locally I know is closed. So I don't know about nationally, but we would go there, right? So you can get a pair of shoes at Payless because you need to get something done, or you can get a pair of shoes at Nordstrom's, or you can get a pair of shoes at Neiman Marcus, right? They all are what? Shoes. But they all do something different. They're all put together differently. They all have a different structure to them, a different level of support, and a different level of style. But they're all still shoes. And that's the same thing with policies. You can get 1,000 different pair of black pumps, but they're not all the same. And ladies, you can look in your closet because I know you got more than one pair of black pumps. And each one has a different purpose. And that's the same thing with policies. There's 1,000 different ways to design them, right? And so that's why we say properly structured, and it has to be structured to what your desired outcome is, if that makes sense. So if you come to me or Latoya and you say, hey, I really want to go into real estate, then we're going to look at your finances and we're going to propose a structure that's going to support your finances and the dream you want to get to, right? If you say, hey, I just want to get out of debt, different conversation. If you
Mhm.
say you want to plan for kids, grandkids or kids college, a little bit of different conversation. So that's why we keep saying that. But let's talk about this. What do you think is the best way? And we talked about the ignorance tax, that's a high tax. We talked about the closed mind. But how do you think, what would you say to someone who may still be closed mind and not still a little fear based? Like, what's something to help them kind of shift their mindset so that they can have some freedom in using the vehicle?
Yeah. So the first thing that you have to do is, I'll take it back. Do a little bit of education. You gotta pick a book. You know,
Mhm.
read a book. Find ways to educate yourself on whenever you can.
Mhm.
And I would say get involved in maybe a group, an organization, a mentorship, something where you can see other people, where you can see action being taken, where you can see things that are working, right? That kind of helps get that mindset shift when you say, oh, wow, when you see it happen and you see someone do it and you see the success, you
Mhm.
know, success, leaves those clues that you can grab onto. But, a lot of it is just we've been taught a certain thing, a certain way our whole entire lives, and that's all we know. So it's a little bit, when I've been taught something for 30 years, and this I've been doing this for 40 years this way, it's not easy to just say, okay, I'm going to just wake up and just start doing something a little bit different. It takes time, right? It
Mhm.
takes dripping, it takes that education, it takes that consistency. So just continuing that. And, we can't be afraid, because the more time that we take to take action steps that we need to take, someone else, we're doing all this, all the things, but you're not taking the action, you're not taking the steps. Somebody else is going to run circles around you. Somebody else is going to get to your goals 10 times before you can get to them, because you're afraid to take the action or afraid to take those steps. And people are going to beat you to your own financial goals just because they took the step, even though they may not have even had, as much information as you had. So sometimes we got to do it. Get some education. I always say, don't do anything that you're not knowledgeable about or not educated about. But once you do, you have to just take action and do it afraid sometimes. It's
Mhm.
okay. Sometimes you got to take a little risk. And risk is not a bad thing, right? You got to conquer the fear. And in order to conquer, that fear, you got to feel it, right? You got to feel the fear, be in the fear, and you got to take action anyway,
Yeah.
right? And once you do that and put that foot out there, it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier. But we really got to, take action. But I never tell anybody to take a step without getting knowledge. Get yourself in a space. It's all about your environment. Your
Yeah.
environment is so critical and important to your financial health, your spiritual health, your mental health, your physical health. Get yourself in environments that are healthy, financially healthy, people that look like where you want to be. That's how you're going to be able to start getting yourself and ready to close that gap to success, right?
Yeah.
Feed yourself with it and eventually take the steps and take the action. Do it afraid, do it shaking. I had to do some things shaking, but
Mhm.
you can do it, right? If there's goals that you have, you can get there. But those are the steps, that I would encourage you to take.
Yeah. And I love that because I was a part of several communities where um that's what we talked about. That's all we talked about was leveraging life insurance. And everybody that was there, some were leveraging it to do stock trades, doing call options, um, um, trading options and doing call put. Oh, I'm not doing this. I'm using the wrong words.
Yeah, you got it
but
right.
but
It's called.
doing trading stocks. Some were doing real estate. Some were doing Turo. Some were building homesteads. Shout out to Zine if I saw her in the chat earlier.
Hey,
Some were focused on actually learning life insurance to share and educate others on how to do it. And so, it's one of the things that I'm currently sharing in the Unblocking Your Path to Wealth Academy, which doors won't open again until July. But, with the group of people that I'm working with, because we have to be in spaces where we think about it. And I told you today, I went to work this morning. I was like, let me call because I think I need to do something a little bit different. Because I started thinking, how am I going to earn interest on this money forever? I was like, oh yeah. What do you think? What are you talking about? You talking about hello? You already
gotta
have
make it work for you,
right? And because sometimes you get in the habit of getting paid, paying bills, right?
Yep.
And what we're talking about is getting paid, put it in the policy,
Pay
then
yourself
pay bills.
first.
And that's a different type of pay yourself first, because if you watch any of the wealthy people, and even if you can't, and I don't want to say you can't afford, because what we can't afford to keep our minds closed and stay away from where people are talking about opportunities. That's what we really can't afford.
That's
And
very true.
so, and I know people who have invested 500 to 10,000 to 250,000 to getting in the rooms with people who are going to coach them to their next level. But get in the room where you are, right? Because everybody's at different levels. But it makes sense to really just be thinking about the opportunities, because I talk to so many people, and so many, and I'm in the DMV, have, I want to use the right words because I don't want to be insensitive, or experiencing difficulties, right, due to the change in administration. Right? And I don't want to be insensitive to that. And what I challenge people to do all the time is, what is your opportunity? I know sometimes it's tough if you're in a financial tough place, or you're in a place where you really need assistance, you don't know what's going to happen or how things are going to go. But to really just try to retrain yourself to think about, what's my opportunity? What's my opportunity? And just because you won't see the opportunity until you look for it. Tony Robbins always does an exercise at his live events, and he'll say, look around the room, find somebody wearing blue, right? And the whole thousands of people look around and they found everybody's blue, and he'll come back and say, who's the person that has on green? You didn't see the person who has on green because you were only looking for blue. And that's why I say look for the opportunity, because if you're only looking at what's going wrong, you'll miss the opportunity that might be in the same room standing right next to you. So when and I'm going to ask you like two more questions, and I'm going to let you go, because I really appreciate you coming in today and us talking about this. Do you recall the moment personally when you realized that life insurance was way more powerful than you thought?
Oh my gosh. Yes. When I got into the financial services industry, I just thought life insurance was just something you use, when you pass away, this is what's going to bury you and send some money to your family. And that was it, right? I knew nothing else about life insurance. So when I got into the industry, I was already in the industry. I was already selling policies just for the death benefit, right? And one day when I can tell you, I know the day. Now I don't know the date, but I can literally feel like I'm back at, like, I can see it, right? And I was getting this information about what you really can do inside of these policies. I have never been the same since that day.
Yeah.
Never. I was like, you are kidding me. You can do what? And then from that day forth, I was nonstop. I couldn't get enough of digging into this, educating myself. Like, what is this person talking about? Like, is this a real thing? So education, again, I went and did my own due diligence and started putting myself in spaces to get educated on how this works. I started reading books. I started, doing trainings and everything that I could to really dig into it. And when I tell you, me learning about the possibilities of the and the resources that are inside of these properly structured policies literally changed the trajectory of my career, of my business. and everything within it. But it wasn't just because I got that information. It was because I started implementing, I took action, and I just ran with it. And it changed my entire life. So I will always remember the day that I heard, cash value and tax free, and I'm like, and leverage, and I'm just like, what? Come again?
Right. Like it does what? What does what? Look, outside of my little crazy story, I didn't think about it other than, oh, this is a great emergency fund.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I was like,
money was in these things.
Y'all buying houses and cars and businesses and stuff. How does that work?
Listen, y'all getting out of debt over here, and now what?
And I asked that because we all have that aha moment, right? And even though like I knew that it had the cash and I knew what it did for me, I still didn't really understand how to leverage it, like at the highest level for mansions and Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and whatever, right? Still not my thing, but but I understand it now for college and for even getting your a regular house, right?
Yeah, whatever it is.
But this is my last question, and this is going to be very specific because we are African American women. And what do you feel like is the one thing that you wish every beautiful woman of melanated skin, who maybe she's an entrepreneur or has a family, what is like one or two, whatever you feel like sharing, things that you wish that they knew about life insurance and how it could change their lives?
Wow. Okay, so I got to tell a little bit of, and I know I'm not going to be long on it, but I will tell you, before I got into the industry, I did not have, I had a policy through my job. I think that was it. Yeah, I just had a policy through my job. So of course it was a group policy. There was no cash value. There was nothing. And, I found myself in a situation to where I was going through a divorce. And so my back was up against the wall because I was going from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. And I had to figure out what are you going to do? Right. And I didn't have a resource or option. And it was tough. Right. And I wish if I would have had something in place at that time, how it could have just prevented so much trauma and things that I went through during that time would have been alleviated. And so many women, we go through just how I was, and we don't have that plan in place, right? We go to work and we put our trust in the things around us. We put our trust in our marriages, which that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with putting trust in marriage. Put your trust in your marriage. We have our trust in our marriages. We have our trust in our jobs. We have our trust in our bodies, expecting our bodies to do what we needed to do, right? We have all this trust in things, and all it takes is for one thing to happen, and we don't have the backup plan, right? So I would encourage any woman to make sure that we have something in place, have a plan in place, an additional stream of income. I believe we all women should have an additional stream of income, something that nobody else can take from you, right? You have a job, but you should also have your work, right? Your job is what they pay you to do. Your work is what you were born to do. So we should all find our work, something that nobody can get up and take away from you, right? Something that a job can't wake up and say, okay, well, we closing, or we don't want you anymore. Anything can happen we can't just keep expecting to walk into a job every day. Yeah, when our parents and grandparents, they worked on a job for 20, 30 years, that was great. And that was back then. But now we can't trust that to know that we can just go walk into that office the next day, right? What plan do we have in place? What do we have in place that no one can take away from us? What do we have in place that, the economy can't affect, that, the market can't crash and take away overnight, right? An illness, all the things that just go on. Like me, it was a divorce, going from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. We need to make sure that we have something that we can control, that nothing can come in and affect. And that, that's very near and dear to my heart because I was that person and I was in that situation. where I had nothing and I had to fight, to get myself in a position to make something happen. And I think, if I can share something that can prevent somebody from having to go through anything that I've had to go through, get something in place where you have an additional stream of income for yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I appreciate you sharing that and sharing that story, because it's so important for us to really, just think about it. I happened to have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't know what I had.
Mm-hmm.
How you have the magic wand and don't even know you have it?
You had it, girl. You just had to wave it.
I just had to wave it, right? And so I love that, because I think that time is up for us as women not understanding our finances and not knowing about our finances. And nobody's expecting any of us to wake up tomorrow and know everything about finances. But like Latoya said, it's starting with one book. It's, checking out different people talking about it, right? Because if I'm honest, some of the talking heads that I've heard, the advice that they give is singularly focused. And so it's like you need to kind of see, look across the board. There are more and more women who look like you who are in the financial industry, who are stepping into spaces where you can see them. They're stepping onto the stage, but we're having to create our own stages, if you will, right? Because we're not always invited to the table. So we're creating stages and creating tables. And so we just challenge you to get into the room, get to the table. Drop your Instagram, Latoya, so people can follow you or join you on Instagram. You can connect with Latoya. If you connect with Latoya, do it. Like if you're one of my friends, you're like, Saran, I don't want to tell you all my financial business. Connect with Latoya. Just tell her you're my friend. Hey, I'm Saran's friend. I saw you on the show. She said I could talk to you. Go talk to Latoya. If you're Latoya's friend and you want to talk to me, come talk to me. But we want you to get information, because it's about getting you and protecting your family. If we can see more little brown girls and boys living with silver spoons in their mouths because their parents are able to maintain what they have, right? Or grow what they have, or build or leverage and make it really manifest into a dynasty and not just a mess. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to support you doing. So get in the room, get on the YouTube. If you want to get into my community, you can go join my Facebook group, Sister Saints. We talk about it. I'm live in there right now, but I talk to them separately from everybody else. And so get in the space. You can join my academy, but the doors don't open again until July, because my first class, my class right now, my 15 ladies, they're locked and loaded, so we're not going to interrupt their flow. But I just want to bring this powerhouse. And so that I did leave this out because I didn't read her bio. I wanted to get right into the conversation. She's not just someone who helps people with their finances. We are part of the same brokerage. And I'm proud to say that she is the top, not the top female, not the top Black person, not the top Black female, the top broker in our agency of 800 plus people. She's the number one broker in the agency. And so I'm proud to call her my friend, and I'm proud to have her on the show, and to continue to do different events and activities with her, because not only is she a friend, she's also a mentor, because I definitely bugged her about something the other day. She was like, hey, how do I do this? And so it's about pouring in. And then if you find yourself in a situation where you need an income stream, we do train people to come into the industry. And you can reach out and we'll teach you how to do it. You won't be alone. We have a large team of men and women who we educate so that you can bring income into your household if that is what you desire to do. It's not our main focus, but if that's what you need, we want to give that to you too.
Amazing team support system.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're all over the place. We're all over the United States, if you will. We got H, one of our brokers. He's in the comments. I want to say he's down in Virginia, but he's all over the place. Every time usually South Carolina, like I don't know where H is right now. But hey,
yeah.
So we thank you. I thank you for joining us today.
I was not able to put my Instagram in the chat. So it's at LN_resources on Instagram.
Yes,
L is in
somebody
Larry, N is in easy.
text me
I couldn't do it. So at LN_resources.
I don't know what's
Oh,
going on.
yeah.
Somebody else had texted me and said they couldn't comment, but I don't know.
I don't know. It's not letting me comment.
At Ellen Resources. That's it, right?
LN_resources.
Underscore.
Mm-hmm.
Resources. I don't know how to fix it.
I tried to connect it with, but it's fine. I'm like, I can just verbally tell you. It's easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say something's wrong because somebody texted me and said, hey, they couldn't comment. I don't know how to fix it while I'm live. So, and if you're watching on my show, I'm at the Real Saran Baker on Instagram and Saran Baker on Facebook. Covered by Saran. If you want to join the group, it's a group for women. It's Sister Sense, Unblocking Your Path to Wealth. I would love to have you there. But Latoya, not Miss Jackson, if you're nice. Always nice.
Thank you.
Right, we're not gonna steal Janet's line. But I thank you for coming. I hope you'll come back again later in the year. I'm always excited to see you. I see a new cute little braid style. I'm gonna have to try to come and steal from you. Thank you. I appreciate you educating the women, and I appreciate you always being a strong force for women and for good in the industry. So thank you so much for coming. And you all who are here, thank you for supporting the channel. Like, share, follow, subscribe if you enjoyed this content. If you didn't enjoy this content, don't do it. But if you did, you probably should share it and you should probably subscribe. But that's it. It's your girl Saran. Peace, love, and light. Let's get your money right. Bye.
Bye.